Hey guys, how are we doing? It's Martin Cliffe from Voyager Project here with part 2 of this building a basic MIDI pedalboard switching system. In the first part we looked at the pedals, we selected how we're going to go, we put them on a piece of board, made sure everything fit, and so at that stage I left it with the just wiring up to do really. So I ordered some wire. In the end I've decided not to use it for the simple reason that we're looking at putting this together on a budget. So I used old patch cables basically that, you know, I chop the ends off, clean them up, put the new jacks on. It's an economical way of, there's no point throwing away your wires just because they don't do what you want anymore. Get new jack plugs for them. If they've got the crappy plastic ends, then obviously get rid of those. But basically what we're looking at is using existing cables. Now the cables I used were fairly decent, you know, there's no rubbish here. I've used some Van Damme cable, I've used some Megami 2319, a bit of a mix of both. Basically I had them left over from old builds, so they haven't cost me anything. The jacks are mostly ones that I've salvaged or were cheap, so this is the system. Now, this is heavy. Here we have, if I can just turn it around for you, the completed board. Everything's been dual locks back on now. As I mentioned, if you watched my building a really simple pedal board, DIY pedal board system, I decided that originally here there was a TC Corona Chorus pedal. I decided to use that for my other board because chorus sounds are something that are really useful in that particular context that I used that board for. So because I like to have the option of switching out to 1 or 2 amps, at the moment I've got this, it's a Palmer PGA 3 Y box, which is just an isolated splitter box, so I can feed 1 amp and 2 amps. I can ground isolate them, or I can switch the phase if you've got 1 amp that's out of phase with the other. Now, it doesn't perform any real difference to the actual sound, except for the simple fact that it does provide a buffer. They were at 9 to 18 volts, it was about 40 quid. Nice bit of kit. Will it stay here permanently? Quite possibly not. What I'm thinking we'll probably do is stick some kind of reverb pedal on the end of the chain to give me a proper stereo width when I need it. I've got a TC Electronic Arena reverb pedal, which is the Musician's Friend exclusive one, that is somewhere in UPS land. That's a whole frustration for another point, maybe one of my rant videos, but yeah, basically it's in the UK, it's arrived, I just can't get it yet. So that might well go there, but I'll have to listen to it and decide whether I want to use that in a different rig or whatever. So, you'll notice, if you look carefully, some of the cable is blue. I'm not a big fan of blue cable, I like things to be black, I like things to be neat. But I didn't have enough black cable of the right kind, so I just wired it up with some basic blue cable for now. It does the job. Still sounds the same, so there we go. So what have we got? We've got the Flatliner power supply. Now the Flatliner is an expensive power supply, I'm not going to lie to you, but I've had it for years, so it's not cost me a lot in the sense that it's more than earned its expense. Again, my Molly Bad Horsey wah I've had for it'll be 5 years this Christmas. It was a Christmas present for my wife. Not a terribly expensive, so it was about 70 quid. The 5MXR pedals, we've got Loop 1 is a distortion pedal, a custom Badass 78, which I think is about £75 at the moment. MXR custom Badass modified overdrive pedal, which is in Loop 2, which is about £85. MXR SmartGate, I think that's about 100 quid. Micro Flanger, I think was about 80. That was a Christmas present last year from my mum and dad, so I didn't have to pay for that. And an MXR carbon copy delay pedal, about £130 I think they go for at the moment. Then we've got the RJM Mini Effect Gizmo up at the top, which was $250 I think, and an RJM MasterMind, which again is about £250, £275. That's my switching system. So okay, it's not a cheap pedal board. We've got but maybe £1,200 top end of what a board like this would cost to put together. So you know, it might seem like a lot, but it's not crazy money. It's, you know, for what it does, it's good quality stuff. So yeah, I've done all the wiring, made sure everything was the right length before I cut it. Cut it to length. There's a little bit of slack on a couple of the wires, but that was just because I was soldering up last night. I was tired after a long week at work, and I couldn't be bothered to do any more sort of complicated trimming than that. But it doesn't matter, it's well away from the power supply, so we're not getting any interference. Not that we get any interference anyway from the Berkey, because one of the reasons why it's so huge and so heavy is it's very over-engineered, so you don't get any noise problems. Everything's now dual locked onto the board. The dual lock attached to the carpet quite nicely, so that wasn't an issue. But any areas where I didn't have any carpet on the board, I just put a little bit of dual lock, only like an inch or so of it, in the relevant places. The MasterMind still had its rubber feet on, so I've taken them off and I've actually put them just on the back of the board. You can see that, and that just serves to just lift the board up a little bit at the back, just give it a very slight slope. They're only, what, third of an inch maybe, so it's not a vast amount, but it also, the being rubber, they just provide a little bit of anti-slip, which works nicely. So that's the board. How does it sound? All I've set up is a set of sounds, a clean. I've only set one bank up very quickly. I've set up a clean, I've set up a clean with a flanger, I've set up an overdrive patch which has the gate on, a distortion patch that has the gate on, and then a kind of solo sound that has the distortion stacked into the overdrive, through the gate and into the delay. So I'll plug it in and we'll give it a listen. I'm running just into one igniter tweaker, which is on the British setting, fairly clean. I'll let you hear that in a second. Okay, so back with Snowy. This is just the amp. So the only connections I've made are obviously power into the flatliner, one jack out of the Y box into the amp, and then one lead from guitar into the wah pedal. So wah pedal on its own. Okay, so patch 1, which as I say is just the delay. So at the moment I've got that set to a fairly short delay time, it's about 11 o'clock. Regen and the mix are both turned low to about 9 o'clock on the carbon copy, and the modulation is on. What I usually do, what I've done to my other carbon copy but I haven't done to this one yet, is switch it out and stick a bigger knob on the delay control, and then one of the little rubber grommets that you get on the MXR, the bigger MXR pedals, the micro flanger and what have you, so that I control the delay time with my foot. It's not as versatile as tap tempo, but it's fairly cool sounding, so that's something I do quite a bit. Okay, the other thing that I should have mentioned, of course, is with using the flatliner, because there are 9 units on the board, there's 5 MXR pedals, the wah pedal, the MasterMind, the Effect Gizmo and the splitter box. There are 9 outputs on the flatliner, 9 inputs on 9 bits of kit, so everything is independently powered and has plenty of juice on tap. Okay, so now the next sound I introduce is the flanger. So that gives me, particularly with adjusting the rate control, which again I can do with my foot on the rubber grommet thing, a range of modulation effects from the subtle to the slightly more extreme. Tend to leave the regen knob at around about 1 o'clock, but obviously if I want something more extreme, I can easily just turn down and bend down and turn that up. Okay, so the next sound we have is patch 3 is kind of my first crunch rhythm sound, which is just a modified OD with the noise gate on. Which, as you can hear, is a fairly fairly versatile kind of classic rock sound. Cleans up nicely. So that's the OD. Then just for a slightly more gain, I then switch to patch 4, which is the distortion pedal. So that just gives me just a little bit of extra kick. for when I need it. Again, cleans up reasonably well, particularly for a distortion pedal. And even in single coil mode with the noise gate on, it's nice and quiet when you're not playing. So going back to just switching between the overdrive and the distortion, this is the overdrive, distortion, it's worth pointing out that they sound quite similar, but just with a little bit more kind of balls and a little bit more sort of tubular kind of sounding on the distortion somehow. A little bit more gain, slightly brighter tone, and the middle just seems to be a little bit more hollow. I haven't got the crunch switch on the distortion. I haven't got the bump switch on the overdrive. So, but you know, I'm not saying that they're bad with those sounds. It's just that the particular sounds I was looking for this setup at the moment are without those switches on. And then, because you always need some kind of lead tone, what I've done is I've stacked them, and I'm going distortion into overdrive, and then the gate's on just to cut out some of the noise, because if I turn on this patch, you might hear the noise go on a little bit, but if I turn off the gate, it becomes a whole lot of noise, particularly in single coil, but it doesn't come down a whole lot when I turn off the coil tap. So that's what the gate does. It's just to clean up the sound in between, particularly as we're now going through a delay as well for this patch. So put it together, and the sound gives me is So we've got a nice delay for just providing a bit of depth for leads. As I say, if I add a reverb pedal to this, it'll give me a bit more space and a bit more 3D-ness as well. But yeah, the two pedals stacked together work surprisingly well. A lot of the times before, when I've experimented with stacked pedals, I've gone overdrive into distortion, but I've discovered that certainly with these two pedals, going distortion into overdrive just really works better. So so that's the rig. It's reasonably simple, gives me a whole range of tones, say from just a clean Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this little two-part journey into building a basic MIDI board. It's something that you don't need, expensive tools. You don't need to spend hundreds of pounds on a pedal board, hundreds of pounds on wires and switching gear. I mean, all the prices I quoted earlier, which we're talking £1,100–1,200 for everything here, is new. A lot of it you can pick up second hand on eBay or wherever. So yeah, for the price of a decent guitar, there's no reason, particularly if you've already got a few of the pedals, there's no reason you can't build yourself a programmable MIDI switching system. Or send it to me and I'll build one for you. Okay, I hope this series has been of interest to you. And until next time, take care and I'll see you soon.